I'm here with Old Drake to talk about Evile and their latest record, The Unknown, out right now. Actually, I just looked at the date. July 14th was the release date on Napalm Records. Thank you for taking the time and working out some room in your busy schedule for the chat.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your guys' channel.
Oh, thank you very much. So let's talk about this record. When you look at this album, do you have had the time, now that the album has been out for a couple of weeks, have you had the time to look back and see where do you start to put this record in the overall discography of the band, where you feel like this album will sit? And I'm not talking about quality wise, I'm talking about just in terms of what it offers.
I think it kind of sits on its own, and I don't mean that because it's our newest album and I'm trying to sell it. I mean, we haven't done an album like this, and by that I mean we've explored tempos that we've never done in Evile. So we usually just play really fast or mid-paced, like average. And we just thought, right, let's do all these speeds that we've never explored and ones that we haven't felt before. So it was basically just an experiment and we really enjoyed it. So it kind of sits on its own for me.
When you come into a record, do you worry a lot about what the past of the band has been record wise, or you always kind of focus more on what the future brings?
We always look forward. Like, we never look back. The only reason we might look back is maybe something might sound a bit similar, like, oh, I've kind of used that riff style before. But other than that, no, we don't look back at all. We always just look forward and do it for ourselves, really. We're number one writing for ourselves. If we're happy, we're happy.
So having that mindset of certain things that you wanted to do on this album coming into the record making process, did that impact the way you approach the writing of the record? Because now you have these conditions, almost maybe not as organic.
I don't know. I don't think so. Nothing really affects the writing process for us. As long as we're comfortable and enjoying it, it's the way it's always been. It usually starts with one single riff or an idea, and it falls to me to then obsess over it and spend months and months listening and building, and then we send it between the band and have feedback and people throw riffs in or ideas. And it's the same as it's always been. To be honest, this album is no different from Hell Unleashed in terms of the writing process. It's just a different path.
Do you look at the album design as a key element in terms of what you want the experience for the listener to be when they press play on that record?
Yeah, 100%. I'm a huge fan of vinyl and CDs and holding something and reading the booklet and all of that. I grew up liking that. And to me, the artwork, it sounds stupid, but to me, it's 50% music, 50% artwork, because the artwork is so important to the aesthetic of the music. If it was just a blank CDR that was just ripped onto it and a white card with nothing on it, the music wouldn't mean as much to me. I need that reference and it gives it so much more depth, and that's why I wanted something quite striking and different and simple for this one, because it suits the music quite well, I think.
So in the modern day age of people listening to stuff on streaming platforms and whatnot, I grew up as you. For me, the artwork, opening up the sleeve of a CD or the insert on a vinyl and going through the lyrics and the graphics and everything, it kind of gave a visual backdrop to what the music then was going to represent. I think a lot of that is lost these days. So how do you try to bring that vision of how things should be to a generation that perhaps doesn't grasp it?
It's difficult. I don't think there is a way around it other than I always try and make sure that the artwork, when it's shrunk down to that size, you can still kind of feel it and see it. So it's not overly highly detailed. It's striking even in a small size. And I just try and kind of push the CD and vinyl on people who maybe they've never bought a CD or a vinyl before, and so just do it and just see how it feels. Not an Evile one, any CD or vinyl. Just it's an experience that goes beyond just clicking something on your phone, and it is lost. And I think it needs to come back. It really does.
Even the smell. I don't know about you, but one of the things that I used to love about ripping either the wrapping on a vinyl or the wrapping on a CD was that when you open it up, the smell of the booklet, like
Yes,
very
100%.
characteristic, you know?
Yeah, I remember. It wasn't new, but a copy of Master of Puppets that my dad used to have a job that involved going to a factory that had, when albums weren't sold, they were sent back to a company who put like a cut in the top corner of the CD case, and that meant it wasn't sold. And I got a copy of Master of Puppets, and I remember the smell of that. And a lot of the time when I hear anything from Master of Puppets, I hear that smell.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel the same
Yeah.
way. Uh, and I used to also spend a lot of time looking at who the bands were thinking on their albums, because that would give me an opportunity to maybe discover a band that I hadn't heard of before. Obviously now things are different. People discover bands through all different mediums, including YouTube. So it's a difficult thing though to juggle, like this old way of creating art and then the new way in which people are consuming it.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to both ways. You know, it's great. Like you can discover anything you need now, and that's fantastic. But on the other hand, I miss buying something and taking that gamble.
So let's talk about a little bit about the elephant in the room, and that's not me. It's the fact that this record has a lot of resemblances sound-wise to Metallica, even though your voice, I'm going to hold it up that you have some John Bush elements in your vocals, which are really super interesting. I really digged it. But that sound, how are you taking to that? Because I'm hearing it from a lot of people, and I saw it in the comments of our videos as well. Are you okay with that? Do you care?
I don't care. Like I grew up loving Metallica. They were my favorite band. They still are my favorite band. I was hugely influenced by them. And to me, I don't see a problem with that. There is nothing wrong with being influenced by one of the biggest metal bands in the world. And I used to care, but I just don't care anymore. I can't say it simpler than that. I mean, in this day and age, when someone puts a negative comment on a post saying, "Oh, this sucks, it's Metallica," thank you for the engagement. You have made that post more popular, so thank you. It is what it is. Since day one, we produced our first album with Fleming Rasmussen, and that only came about because we joked with the label, like, "Let's try and get Fleming Rasmussen," and they went, "Okay." We're like, "No, no, no, we were joking," and he just happened to want to do it. So ever since then, every album we've sold out on, we've sounded like Metallica on, and all of that. I'm so used to it now that I just do not care. Like, please increase our engagement all you want.
I honestly think that it's kind of like irrelevant in terms of the end result. If the songs are good, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, also as fans, we always comparing shit. I don't know about you, but I feel like every time you listen to something, you always tended to compare with something else. So I don't think it
Yeah.
always comes from a negative place, to be honest.
No, it's a thing in metal a lot. Like metal people have to put a label and a comparison to something. I do it myself sometimes. I'll hear a riff and go, "That's a Slayer riff," but I don't mean it in a negative way. It's just it's a cool riff that Slayer might do, and it's just how it is. You know, I think the album is really good. There's some really good songs on there. There was no goal thinking like, "Oh, this could sound like Metallica." It's just we really like the songs, and if people like them, it's great. If you think it's Metallica,
Listen,
whatever.
for all of those out there, including myself, who hated the new Metallica album, I think this is a better solution for our problems. Just listen to The Unknown. There you go. It's what we all wish Metallica would have sounded like, and they don't. So it's all good.
Well, thank you.
It's all good. Now, what was your vision on the production for this record? Did you want to tweak anything from the previous album? Because this album sounded slightly different from the previous record.
Yeah, it was the same producer, Chris, and this time around, when the writing started and I wrote a few riffs, we were actually still in the studio recording Hell Unleashed when I started writing the next one. So I wrote a riff. I think it's the main riff to Mira's speech, and it just became really evident that the sound needed to be wider, the drums needed to be bigger, more bass, and we even turned the guitars down more to allow more drums and bass in the mix. And yeah, it was definitely on purpose to try and make everything bigger because the wider riffs needed more space. The vocals needed more space because when you play slower tempos, the vocals are a lot more vulnerable. So it needed to be big. It needed to be really punchy. So yeah, it was definitely a vision for that.
This to me felt also from an overall sensation. Like when you listen to the album from the first to the last track, it felt like a more complete record than Hell Unleashed. What gave me, in your mind, what gave me this album more that sense of a complete record, not just from a soundscape, but from a structure, design, delivery? It just feels better together, if you will.
Well, I think that there's a few factors. So the last album was 2013, and I left for 5 years. There was no new music from Evile. I came back in 2018. I hit the ground running. I said, "Look, we need new music. It's been 5 years." Complications arose. The songs were completed musically, um, and Matt just wasn't available. He wasn't well, and he just didn't send anything, vocals or lyrics. So eventually, he just left. And then, due to that, we had made the decision that I would sing. So jumping in that deep end, not that it was stressful and chaotic, it was just a brand new glove for me to wear. And in the chaos of all that, I think it not that it was rushed, it was just we have to get this done as soon as possible. That's why we released it during COVID, because it's been 2013 to 2021, I think. And the album after that, I'd found my footing with my voice. I was learning a lot more. I was more comfortable. I wasn't blowing my voice every night, and everything just relaxed a bit. And we had a vision. We had all the songs. We put them in the right order that we wanted to do. The artwork, I can't stress enough how perfect it was for us that Elaran did, and everything just sit really well. Like there was no, oh shit, that's a bit. It was just really smooth. We hit the studio, Ben did all the drum tracks. There was no problems. It just flew through, and it was once everything's written, it was just easy. I think that's probably why.
Yeah, it definitely comes across in the music, that's for sure. And speaking of your vocals, have you done some vocal classes? Have you done some training? How are you working now that new instrument of yours?
So from Hell Unleashed, which was really difficult, like Chris really helped me in the studio because he's a vocalist. I was just shouting basically, and it really hurt. And after that, I got in touch with Melissa Cross, and I just said, "Look," I explained the situation. And I said, just, "Please help, please help me." So she really did, and she set me on the right path. And I've been learning so much. And I'm just getting to know my voice a bit more. So when I'm singing, I'm noticing that no, that's wrong. That hurts a bit. Maybe try this. And it's just been 2 years of trial and error, really. And Melissa really helped. I've spoken to a few people. Like I speak to as many people as I can, vocalists like Mark Cardavox on YouTube and Diva Satanica. She's really helped, and just all the help I can get. Hooli from Cry6 as well. Some really cool people have really helped me out. So thank you to everyone.
So how far are you from becoming a vocalist that plays guitar versus a guitarist that sings?
um, I've not been asked that yet. Hold on. I think I will always be a guitarist first. It's just out of necessity. I'm singing, so I still do not see myself as a singer. When I warm up for a show, I still warm up on the guitar and then think, "Oh shit, I need to warm my voice up," and then I'll rush to warm my voice up. So I'm still not 100% there. So maybe a year or so. I don't know.
How would you describe yourself as a guitar player?
Um, I've had this question before, and I've done technical stuff. I play fast and stuff, but I don't see myself as a shredder. Like you have people like Reese from Havoc and Gus from Suicidal Angels. They are shredders. They can play shit that I just hear and go, fuck.
That's good.
To me, I'm kind of like Like, I love Jeff Waters from Annihilator. He was my idol growing up learning. I'm kind of just like a blues thrash guitarist with a few interesting note choices, and I just kind of have fun with it. I've reached my point where I don't want to be Steve Vai anymore. I found my comfort zone. I'm happy there. So, you know, that's about it.
When you're coming into a record like this, how much of the thought process is, okay, we need to take a step up from what we've done before as a band and continue to grow and evolve, and how much of that is also you saying, me as an individual artist, I want to take these challenges and I want to take this approach because I also want to grow individually. How much is one and how much is the other driving the whole machine?
um, I I don't think we ever actually think about us growing individually. It's always about the collective. So when we sit down to do a new album and write new songs, our only goal is to write something cool that we love to hear. So my writing process is, say if I've written a minute's worth of a song, I will listen to that minute 600, 700 times, like while I'm driving to work, wherever I can, until I notice something that clicks. I'm like, I know exactly what needs to come next, or delete or anything. And that's always the goal. It's just, we always concentrate on the songs. We don't have any gimmicks. We don't have a costume. We don't do anything. We are just all about the songs. Like, we goof around on stage. We have a laugh. You know, that's always the goal. I never think like, oh, maybe you need to do this on the drums a bit more on this album. It's just, we just do what we've always done, really.
So now from the business side, when it comes to an album release cycle, do you set some certain goals for what a successful release will be?
Um, I I guess so, but it's nothing strict. We just think, you know, if enough people listen to it, share it, and buy it, we're happy. Like, obviously, it would be great if more people these days would buy the physical product, because it goes a long way to helping a band. A lot of people don't know how much it does help. But uh, again, it's just, we're happy to be doing it, and the fact that Napalm Records took the gamble with us on the last album, with the lineup change and everything, we just appreciate it so much that we're happy we get to do this. Like, I just spent yesterday flying and traveling back from Lithuania, a festival we played, and we just get to do that. And to us, that's great. If we could do it more, or if it could be our like full-time job, that would be great. But it's not an ideal world.
Unfortunately, it isn't. And speaking of gigs, so what are your plans for the near future now that the album is out? Are you guys going to do some festivals this summer? Maybe a little bit of touring? What's in the cards?
So we have a UK tour lined up first. We're going to head over to Ireland as well. We're now looking at festivals for next year, because COVID knocked on the lineups for a few years and we just couldn't get on anything. So next year is hopefully the first year that we can get on things. We're trying to get to North America all the time. We tried to get it on Hell Unleashed, but it was just so expensive that we were in the red before we'd even leave the country, so it was just not feasible. So we're always trying. I hope to get there next year for this album. And our only problem is work. Like, it's no secret that musicians don't make a living off their music anymore, unless you're like, you know, big. And our problem is the balance of work and family and band. And like, the last song on the album, Balance of Time, is literally about that, and how difficult it is to balance everything to be able to do this. And it's just a constant fight to try and get out as much as we can while keeping work happy, keeping family fed, and being able to do it. So we're trying everything we can.
It's a tough world for artists out there for sure. I mean, the pandemic hurt during that time, but there's now the lingering effects of what happened during that time spreading, because as you said, it's getting really expensive to tour. It's hard to find buses, it's hard to find crews. Everything is like double and triple the price. So I definitely feel from where you're coming from, but hopefully we'll get to see you guys in North America in 2024. That would be such a treat.
Yeah.
Drake, man, thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate you making some room in your schedule for us to
Oh,
talk a little bit about the record. It was a pleasure to have you on the channel.
thank you. Thanks for taking the time and thanks for having me.